Let's take a look at the problem of baseboards in AutoCAD Architecture. I will go through two different options for you to create baseboards. On the example partial plan on my screen right now, this is a portion of a residence with a bathroom and a bedroom. The walls that are all pochade solid are the interior walls, and we have one exterior wall. Before I get started on the simplest way to do baseboards, let me zoom in a little bit and show you one of Archidime's custom doors that has trim on both sides of the wall, as you would want in a project. Now let's go ahead and add baseboards and see how that impacts the door. So the easiest way would be to go ahead and select any wall or create one from scratch and just add baseboards to the wall as components. So for example, here I have a wall with sheetrock, studs, and sheetrock. Half-inch sheetrock on both sides with variable width studs in between. So here I will go ahead on item 1, which is the sheetrock, and above it I will add baseboard. I'll go ahead and make the priority something higher than the sheetrock. And so I'm writing in 1250. And the width I will make 3/4 of an inch. And the edge offset will be 1/2 because the sheetrock comes out 1/2 inch. So I want to go beyond that. So 1/2. And we'll come down here to the elevation offsets. So the first one is where does it start? From the wall bottom is at 0. That's fine. Now I want to change this to a wall bottom again because I only want this to come up 4.25 above the floor. And I'll zoom in here and take a look and see if that's working out. So there it is. That's the one side baseboard. 3/4 inch by 4 1/4. So let me go ahead and right click here on index item 1, which is the baseboard, copy it, jump down to the last one, right click and paste so that I copy all of that information down. And what I need to do now is I need to copy the offset of the item above here and add my information to it. But I'm just going to highlight this, right, Control C, jump down here, one click, Control V, paste that in, saves me some time. And I want to change this to 1 1/4 offset. Let's see, it didn't take that. Let me do this 1 1/4 inch. There we go. And you can see, always use that preview picture when you're building your components to make sure everything is functioning the way you expect. Let's go to the materials, and then quickly I'll just add to these two items here. I'll go ahead and add some material I already have in my drawing file, which is a semi-gloss white paint for trim, which is being used on the doors and the windows. So that should work out nicely. Now hopefully on the screen you will see two things happen. One is we get the red line, which is the baseboards on both sides of the interior wall. That's correct. But something happened to the doors. All the doors had some kind of automatic adjustment. And the reason is that doors typically will read the width of the wall from the very bottom. So whatever starts at 0, they read that as the width of the wall and then automatically adjust. So you could compensate by working on all the doors, or we can do some little trick that I've discovered along the years of working with this software that I will show you right now. So here, I don't want this trim to sit on the outside of the baseboard. So this is the sheetrock. I want it up against here. So if I go back to that wall and go back to those components that I had, I found that if you just give it a very small amount of offset from the bottom, the doors won't read that component as the full width of the wall. So for example, I will typically use 1/16 of an inch. So just some small value, and watch when I click back, see how the doors adjust back in. That's correct. The inside or the both side trim should look like this. Now the baseboard is doing what it thinks is correct, which is to run all the way to where the wall opens, and there's nothing we can really, no settings we can adjust to make it stop at these the trim pieces here. So that's item number one. That's a problem that we need to take a look at. So we'll go ahead and so you can see this better. Let's go ahead and view this in 3D. And go ahead and we'll just shade this realistically. And so you can see it here coming through. Now that's because this trim has a curve and it tapers in. So it's wide enough over here, but it's not wide enough over there. So we see the baseboard coming through. This is not going to look good in renderings or interior elevations, really anything. Doesn't even look good in plan view. Now the other problem, if we go back to top view, let's go back to plan world, and let's go ahead and go to wireframe, is that when you set a baseboard on walls, it will do what you tell it. It'll do all the walls of that style. So this wall now has a baseboard component running all the way here and around and all the way back and so forth. So it goes behind the tub where it makes no sense, and it goes behind the vanity here and so forth. Now if you want to make something like this work, let's say you don't have bathtub issues, or you're mostly only worried about rooms that are like bedrooms here, you can define or create a wall. It would be an opening end cap style that has the amount of offset that's required here. So you would have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 components to your end cap. And you could design that so that these things would be pushed back, but it would only alleviate this particular issue. It wouldn't address stuff like this where it goes behind the tub and goes in places you don't want it. So let's I'll show you how we'll undo this, and then I'll show you the way that I typically address situations like that. So I'll go ahead and remove the baseboard. Now sometimes I will use this technique, but it would be more like a commercial project where it's just office spaces. I wouldn't do it in a bathroom. So the other technique would be to use a completely different object. We'll use a structural member. So down in the lower corner, defined with a unique profile, just to show how you can make it nicely detailed. I will go ahead and do a member. I'll type in member shape and new, and I'll type in baseboard underscore 0.75 by 4.25. So I'll give it that information so I can keep track of it. For medium detail, I'll go ahead and pick the actual shape, and I'll use this lower right corner as the insertion point. This will also define the baseline positioning of this structural member. And then for low detail, I have just the rectangle. Now that's an option. You don't have to do that, but it could be useful if you're showing your model in just low detail. And for high detail, I'll go ahead and pick the shape again and snap to this corner and go ahead and apply. Now that's just capturing the shape. Now we'll go to member style and do a new member style, and I will call this thing the same, baseboard underscore 0.75 by 4.25, and double click, and I'll go ahead and assign the oops, that's the material. We'll do that next. Here we under design rules, we'll assign that shape, and we'll just leave all of this stuff as is. And then for material, I'll go ahead and use that same material that I looked at before, the semi-gloss white, and I'll do an OK, or an apply, and OK. So now I have a structural member that I can use as a baseboard. So I'll just type in beam add and go over here and make sure I have baseboard. And then I will look down here on object, no, I'll set that to no. And then I should be able to draw it from baseline, which is the lower, I pick the lower right corner. So I should be able to, oops, go ahead and draw it like this. And come down. You know, I probably, let's go down and lock, I escape, let's lock, this is a good thing to do, replace Z, lock that to 0 so that you don't end up hitting something that you don't want. And then I'll go ahead and beam add again and make sure this is set to no. All right. And go ahead and draw it around here. And I will go ahead and come all the way down back to here. All right, so I've drawn all the way around, and there is another way that you can do it. You could draw a P-line and then convert the P-line, but it can't be a closed P-line. This is pretty much how I end up doing it. And then for situations like this, I will go ahead and I'll pick the object. I'll go down and do a trim. I'll do a miter, and I'll select this other corner. So it miters the baseboards here, and I'll just hit enter and repeat the process here. And repeat it there, and just do it here. Okay, now for the places I don't want it, I'll do a break with a 2-point break, and I'll break it off here and here. All right, and I see the miter from, let's see, this is the, this is the N, so for N, we'll go down and get rid of that miter. So we'll just go down here and do end and remove the miter if it's doing that. That'll clean up that miter. And this one is the start, so we'll go down and do the same thing here. And get rid of that miter. All right, and another way that you can do this is if you have some line work. This is not a good example. I don't want it there. You can trim. For example, if I have line work here, you can do a trim to this, enter, and it'll trim the member back to that line. And then okay, I'll get rid of that. And let's see, this is the start, and I'll get rid of that miter. Okay, and now I can go ahead and just pull this back into position like that. And let's take a look at what it looks like over here. I don't like that. And so this one is, I think this is end. Yep, so we'll just go ahead and get rid of that miter altogether. All right, and I want to pull this back here. So you're doing a lot more manual labor because you're not using a component anymore, but the end results are superior in the way that they look in all aspects. So just harder to work with. I track these typically on a different layer, but I do, if I have to move this door, for example, I cringe because I know I have to go back and adjust that. But let's take a look at specifically why you might feel the need to do this is in cases like, for example, I'm just going to copy this here now that I have it. What I really want is this detail here. I want it to do this, and I want it to come like that to the cabinet, right? That's the look we want. We don't want baseboard here, and we don't want it behind the cabinet. They wouldn't build it that way. And I have an elevation here. This is what it looks like without the baseboard. So now I'll go ahead and I'll do a refresh, and you can see the baseboard showing up correctly behind the toilet. So it looks like here, oh, so I didn't pull it over far enough because in plan I was seeing this overhang. So let me just go and fix that. Let's see, I think this is 1 inch. Yeah. Save. There we go. So that would be the correct look. All right, so that pretty much covers the basics of two options that you have for creating baseboards. Now you could do the wall component as I started with, and do a sweep on it to get that same level of detail. If you do a sweep, you would capture this as a profile with the profile command, and then you would do a wall sweep. I can very quickly demonstrate that. I'll just copy this wall over like this. I'll go ahead and edit the wall. Go ahead and just add that component to one side. And a baseboard. And let's just do 3/4. 0.5. And go here, wall bottom. 4.25. Okay, that should add the baseboard to one side. Now to create the sweep, I'll just do a profile. So I'll type in profile definitions, and just to save time, I'm just going to call it baseboard. And I'll go ahead now and I'll go ahead and capture that. Set from. And let's go ahead and do a sweep now. So I'll go down here and I will right click and I will go to sweeps and I will add, and I'll say baseboard from the baseboard profile I just captured, and that's fine. These are all fine. And then we go ahead and do that. I should have snapped to the other side, so that's fine. I'll just go ahead and do a profile definition, and I will set from out here. And let's see, that should take care of it. Yeah. So that's using a sweep. If you have two walls that come together, that's selected. Let's say they kind of come across like this. I'll just flip this over. Come on, there we go. You can go ahead and you can right click, go to sweeps and miter, and pick these two. There you go. So you clean up that corner. Right. So just know both and decide what works better. Just learn the two techniques. I've even tried doing it with a railing, some minor success. And again, let's see. Finally, here, just if you have a room that goes something like this and like this, let's say, and it comes back like that, you can actually do a beam convert, and you can select a non-closed polyline and convert it over here to your baseboard. So that's one way that you can make a rapid baseboard. This is oh, it's inverted. Okay, so the reason it's inverted, it's going to the outside. I meant for that to go to the inside. This is a good trick to learn. You do a p-edit, and then you reverse that. You p-edit, and then there's the reverse option down here. Type in reverse, and then enter, and then now do a beam convert. And you select it, and it'll reverse the direction on that. So we go like this, and we'll go here, baseboard, and you'll see now it's the correct direction. Now, the thing that I learned with this, which seems like a really good solution, let's see here, plan world, is you can't miter these. You can't make them clean up. So if you decide you want to add more baseboard in this direction and you want to make a miter, that won't work. But if this is all you would need, this makes it stick together. So that's kind of nice. And then if you ever need to make some adjustments, that works. So yeah, that's another version of using beams. But basically what we've covered here is adding baseboards as a component to your wall styles versus using a structural member as a baseboard object.